Hi, it's Justin Paperny, Tuesday, September 3rd, coming to you from Taft Federal Prison Camp. A few moments ago, I dropped off a very good friend and client for his surrender at Taft Federal Prison Camp. And we spent the last couple of hours continuing to prepare, helping him understand what he needs to do to make this the most productive experience of the last few years, of what has been a very difficult time. And I know many of you watching this fear the unknown, fear federal prison. I remind all of you, those waiting and wondering what your sentence will look like, that fear of the unknown is harder than even today, surrendering to federal prison. Some tips for you to consider as I shared with my client and as I share with you. I don't know if you can see Taft Federal Prison Camp behind me. It's been 11 years since I've been here, since my surrender and release from Taft Camp. It's just as warm now as it was then. Not a whole lot has changed in the city of Taft. As I told my clients, I tell all of you, I don't want you to expect staff to really prepare you for your release. I get a lot of messages from people who are home from prison telling me that they didn't get the training they expected in prison. They got certificates that are now useless while seeking employment. The programming wasn't what they had expected. Do not expect staff to program you. Do not expect staff to educate you. I say that not to complain. We don't need it. Self-paced, self-directed is the way that you are going to educate yourself, build a new business from prison, write your book, write your memoir, develop skills, grow your network. You do not need staff for any of that. Avoid staff. Don't speak with them unless you have to. But if you're expecting them to correct you, we have bigger problems that we should talk about. It's going to come from within. Some additional tips I want to share with you as you make your way potentially to federal prison. A number of prisoners will tell you that you should forget about the outside society while serving time. Here's a shameless plug for Lessons from Prison that I wrote with the help of my business partner, Michael Santos, in prison. As a car drives by, I don't think they're pulling into the prison. Hold on. No, they're driving right by the surrender to prison. As I wrote in Lessons from Prison, which you can still get for free, there are a number of prisoners that will tell you to forget about the outside world while serving time. Horrible idea. Doesn't make any sense. To serve your time successfully, you need not be concerned or have your honor or integrity or mankind, whatever the word is, associated with how people perceive you in prison. The last thing you should be concerned about is how people perceive you in prison. People thought I was nuts. They also thought Michael Santos was nuts. I woke at 4 a.m., he woke up at 1 a.m. Every decision we made focused on this central precept. What are our values? Are we pursuing them? And what do we want the rest of our life to look like because we were in prison? Frankly, that other prisoners perceive me as nuts or crazy for waking early and running and writing and staying to myself, I did not care. Neither should you. Do not shut out the outside world. You need that network. You need them to believe in you, to support you, to have a vested interest in your success. Michael Santos would write hundreds of letters. Yes, many of those letters would go unreturned. Why am I yelling? I'm not sure. Many of those letters would go unreturned, but as a result of sending those letters, many people did respond. Many people did say, I want to have a vested interest in your success, and I modeled that. You're not going to be able to meet Michael Santos upon your surrender as I did, so I want to be that mentor for you. While I might not be there with you, I want you, as my client will do this afternoon, to know his environment, to study his environment, to accept what he can and cannot change, to embrace the reality that in the totality of his life, his brief time in a minimum security camp will be brief, and that he's got to be utterly obsessed and focused, even if to the point where people think he's nuts. Focused to the point of understanding this will be behind me, and what am I doing to nurture and grow that network? To that end, upon your surrender, write letters to your network. Here's email to nurture and grow that network. Write letters. When I surrendered to prison, I had some very vague. If you're surrendering to Taft, watch the speed limit. There's a lot of cops in this town. He's going to be very lucky if he doesn't get a ticket. When I surrendered to Taft, I had very vague goals. Get in better shape, maybe learn Spanish. Then I walked into that library and I met Santos. I read Plato, Aristotle. I began reading and writing. I began thinking about the decisions that led me to prison. I began documenting the journey, doing things that people said I should not do. You've got to follow your own path. You've got to make your own decisions. You've got to brace the reality that as a convicted felon, you are indeed an underdog, which requires a different way of thinking. Some people may call you nuts. If you're doing it respectfully, with integrity, and doing it the right way, you will emerge better and stronger than the statistics may show. So as I wrap up this video from a very hot Taft Federal Prison Camp on Tuesday, September 3rd. That person too may get a ticket. As I wrap up this video, I want all of you to have these salient points. One, do not serve time and forget about the outside world. Do not forget about your spouse or your mom or your dad or your siblings or children who endure this experience harder than you. That first call home, do not complain about how tough it is, how hard it is. They know it's tough, they know it's hard. You're the leader, you've got to put up a strong front. Do not expect staff to educate you. Do not expect staff to spend hours preparing you for the life you want to live upon release. It's got to come from within. And lastly, understand your tendencies. I speak about it a lot in my books, in Ethics in Motion, and the corporate speaking that I do. If some of you have been exploited or taken advantage of, and that's the reason you were swept into criminal conduct, understand you're stepping into an environment where there are criminals. You are in prison after all. There are people who could look to exploit and take advantage of you. If any of you got a disciplinary infraction, it would be devastating for your family. If any of you went to the SHU, got sent to a higher security prison, it would be devastating for your family. If you can understand how the decisions you make that first day, the second day, the third day for your whole journey will relate to the rest of your life, you'll grow that network, you'll avoid problems, you'll lay low, maybe people will call you crazy, but I'm 10 years out, happily married, children, grateful for the love and support that I have, grateful that I used every second in federal prison preparing for the inevitable obstacles that awaited me. And as I wrote in Lessons from Prison with the help of my buddy Michael Santos, I began ascending the metaphorical you the day that I surrendered. To learn more about the you, actually, what chapter is it in here? I'm actually not sure where I wrote about the metaphorical you in Lessons from Prison. I want to say it's chapter 16. You should get the book, read it, implement it, and you'll have a better journey, as my friend who just surrendered to prison will have. Thank you for your time. Be well.